Three, two, one. When you send the code and all the keys to a client, all you're doing is providing a baseline malleable product that your client can use to their will. That is how AI from AI Labs then gets remodeled for stuff like Gamma, Gemini, and Claude that are AI companies. This is an important clarification because assuming the absolute worst case that AI can be held liable for the action of third party, i.e. an affirmation of malicious intent or etc., the only big tech companies who are logically liable are the manufacturers, i.e. the clients who utilize the AI, i.e. the AI companies, and never the AI labs themselves, because all they do is provide the code and the keys to the client. This little eureka moment on WIP disappears, because when you read the motion, you are suing AI labs in their side or the makers of AI products. We say the only proximate liability is on manufacturing companies because labs are autonomous from companies. This engages with the entirety of government, telling us about the possibility of malicious AI procedures, because logically, it is those who manipulated and manufactured AI, i.e. AI companies, which would be liable for the AI turning south. This deals with the extremely disingenuous frame from PM. How so? Three things. One, they frame that AI is undeniably involved in their entire frame on PM, which is unengaging because most trials that involve AI involvement literally is to argue the involvement of AI to the crime, which is the intuitive truth value clash to justify the liability, which government tries to run as a truity. In fact, opposition makes it clear that AI could be involved or not involved. This is part of the trial. The problem is if the AI lab is liable for AI involvement to crime. Opposition is able to tell you four things. One, AI is often, even if involved, not automatically and indirectly liable at the very end of the day. This means that even if they have involvement, they're not liable for the action. They say AI can be used as a weapon. Two, knives can be used to cut people. You do not need to stop or fix its cutting skills in order to keep manufacturing knives because that ruins the purpose of a knife. This kills government's case on AI labs not changing their AI algorithms, making them liable because the skill of AI is contingent on content generation, which is also the reason for the deaths. To stop them from quote unquote killing, you would have to kill the purpose of AI and kill the purpose of content generation. But three, WIP, you say that we can sue companies. That's the point. Labs are not manufacturing companies, by the way. Labs are not AI companies. They are literally, essentially, like the quote unquote scientific labs that make things. They are basically the ones who invented the thing that manufacturing companies are lazily manufacturing. That's why the dichotomy is important. You can sue the company, not the independent lab, because all they're doing is providing a code. Fourth, they also add new matter by building a frame and saying AI labs are the ones manipulating data sets. No. When you sell your code to a company, you have no liability to the code, so data sets will not go to you, but the company using your AI. That's why AI labs are often not, let's say, for example, part of the administrative process of other AI companies. Two, they say that AI ethics committees depend on liability, citing on DPM's binary or whatever. They have a false binary. AI ethics committees will still do their best to regulate AI anyway, because although they are not legally liable for third-party harms, ethics committees are a new government rule on its own to monitor AI's ethical code with existing legislations that restrict AI. This is a shoot to their own case, because now it is government that lays out already existing checks and balances systems that already make AI as non-interventionist and non-violent as possible. Hence why OpenAI has been actively regulating and changing AI systems to become better and more people-oriented. What's the proof of this? My friend asked ChatGPT what all our favorite sex positions were. ChatGPT declined, said that it's not ethical. This shows that even with liability shields, they still uphold ethicality because they depend on user activity to gain revenue. In fact, there is a problem inside government. Assuming everyone can be accountable means everyone needs to be accountable, especially when they aren't. LO proved by AI labs are not logically liable for AI, and that there's already existing regulatory bodies set by PM to mediate AI. So when they talk about enablers, stop badgering me, being held accountable, this never holds true in legal court. Enablers are never held accountable. Me watching my friend kill my other friend will not get me arrested because they address the idea of accessory to the crime, which needs active contribution to the crime. My AI robot actively echo chambering a psychopath is not me helping a crime, so I'm not an accessory to the crime. It's why the dichotomy is so important. You need to understand the law, but sure, AI was the one who enabled, but why does this mean I, as the lab, am the accessory? This doesn't make any sense. This is why their analogy on school shooters is also wrong. States are never held accountable for school shooting because of the Second Amendment. The existence of clamor and discussion, i.e. accountability that they talk about to change the Second Amendment, shows that there's still an inevitable want to change and we rework laws, which are exactly how AI works with the existing AI ethics committees at the very end of the day. Three, the idea of victim catharsis and feeling safe. Notice, this is the same rhetoric that made gay people be shunned by society for spreading HIV because the accountability was apparently a misguided identity and not consecutive education and social failures. This is also the same rhetoric that rationalized bigotry because if we kept focusing on making our citizens feel safe, we justify irrational discriminations against people due to fear. This is the flip. Government also feeds the idea of irrationality in decision making the same way they blame AI for making someone irrationally kill another person. In that case, they would have to argue that the principle of their policy is also liable for the endless discriminations that exist in history via the enabling of fear and the yearning of safety. How does safety actually work in our side? You analyze the situation, you provide proper due process. This includes allowing people to understand where to breach and where not to breach, especially when it's logically proven that AI labs are never going to be liable for anything their product does after they give the product to someone else. In fact, the way to make people feel safe is to see the murderer of your parents going to sue AI instead of getting the accountability themselves in their side, which is often the reason why suing often happens. Parents sue social media sites and AI because they do not want to take accountability for their actions. They never address this, which proves that all they want to do is filibuster trials and ensure people do not trust the judicial system, especially when I think the media is smart enough to realize that AI is kind of not the reason why these things happen at the very end of the day. Before I move on, sure, I'll take the POI.
Simple question. This is a false definitional challenge that you push in WIP that AI labs are different from AI companies. OpenAI is an AI lab within OpenAI is a company.
Yeah, because OpenAI labs and OpenAI companies are still different from each other because the OpenAI lab is still independent in its autonomy towards OpenAI companies. You have to understand this because OpenAI labs often create the source code that they're going to provide towards OpenAI companies. You can sue the OpenAI company branch, but not the OpenAI company lab at the very end of the day. This false dichotomy, quote unquote, coming from my side, already existed in LO and DLO, but you guys thought that, oh, AI labs and AI companies are the exact same thing. No, they're not the exact same thing. If you search up most of these things, you'll see that OpenAI often sources itself from independent labs that do not hold any liability towards these actions at the very end of the day, which means that you kind of need to matter load a bit more. What did we prove? AI labs are not responsible for the crime because of three reasons. One, the mechanism of AI procurement. Two, AI itself is a tool. But three, AI is not an accessory, just an enabler. This is the positive whip kind of fails to forget at the very end of the day. So even if AI is sort of involved or whatever, AI is never going to be liable. And even if AI is quote unquote liable, it's never because of the AI lab at the very end of the day, which means then that you're never able to prove why the AI lab needs to be liable for these actions, which does not prove the removement or the opposition of the shielding at the very end of the day. If I'm able to prove the truth value out of everything else, then it's only opposition that's able to win the debate. Oppose.